Hi there. Since I was doing this over the 4th of July weekend, I thought it would only be fitting if I picked Bruce Springsteen for my visualization. I've seen him about 80 times in 6 states and over 2 countries. So I know a little bit about him. I wish I knew more about visualizing all of his career, but I'll show you what I was able to do. So over his 40 plus year career, he's released 33 albums. He's also now releases digital copies of his live shows. So right here on the left hand side, you can see all of his different albums and songs, singles. And to the right, you can kind of see a visualization of how his look has changed over the years. He's been a pretty prolific recorder. He's also had a lot of chart success. So what we can see here is the year of release and all of his official albums. I got this information from Billboard and his own personal website, brucespringsteen.net. And what we have here is all the albums, the year they were released. And then if you hover over or you look, you can see their chart position. So he's had 10 #1 albums and 18 chart within the top 10. In 1992, he actually released 2 albums on the same day, Lucky Town and Human Touch, and they actually debuted at number 2 and 3 respectively. You'll see a lot of low digit numbers. Where you see the higher digit was either very early in his career or later on when he's released a lot of things that were more for the fans. So Tracks here was a collection of all outtakes. This Hammerstein was actually part of a box set. It was a very old concert. So anyway, you can see though he's had a lot of success, a lot of #1s, 2s, 5s. Even when he's released best ofs, they've charted top 14. Tracks, a huge 4 CD box set, got to number 27. So again, a lot of chart success. But he's not really known for his studio output as much as he's known for his live shows. So they very commonly last over 3 hours, sometimes almost 4. In 1999, he actually played the Super Bowl, and this was where he misjudged his slide and went right into the camera. But I've seen midnight, the midnight hour many times with Bruce over all the shows I've seen. This chart here, what I did was I took all of his set lists, and just to show you how much work was involved, I'm just going to hop over to Safari for a second. So I use Setlist FM to get all of this data. And if you're thinking about doing this for your favorite artist, I would say not to, or pick somebody without a long career. I had to download the data like this, and I had to do it. It only would do about 20 shows at a time. Being as he has over 2,000 shows, I had over 100 files that I needed to combine into something useful. Which I then combined them into Excel, and they look something like this, which gave me the date of the show, the tour, the venue he played in, the city, the state, the country, latitude, longitude, and all of the songs he's played. I probably spent 2 full days just cleaning all of this data. But anyway, it allowed me to visualize it like this. I'm going to exclude the null because that's where somebody didn't have a set list from back in the 70s. But if you look here, what we see is this was the song most likely to open the show. So you can see over his career, Born in the USA has opened more shows than any other tour. And if we hover over, we see here is by tour. So Born in the USA opened 145 of the Born in the USA shows, and a little bit fewer on some of the later tours. You'll also see something like the Rising only has 1 color. That's because the Rising only opened the Rising tour, even though it was played on other tours. That was the only time it had the opening slot. And similarly here we see Radio Nowhere only opened the shows that were associated with the Magic tour. And My Beautiful Reward only opened the shows on Devils and Dust. But then where you see a lot of colors is where he's kind of mixed it up over the years. So when you go to see Bruce, sometimes you know what the opening song will be, but sometimes you might throw something out of left field. So the very first time I saw him, Night was actually the opening song, and I wasn't expecting that. Kind of keeps you on your feet and makes you be in the seat on time. Bruce's tours have taken him to all but 5 states. So sorry, Alaska, South Dakota, Wyoming, Idaho, and Montana. And if you hover over the states, it'll actually show you the first time he played there. So California, we have 1973. That's because at the time he would drive cross country a lot because his parents had actually relocated from New Jersey to the state of California. So he'd play some clubs and bars there. But if we hover over New Jersey, you'll see 1972 was the first time associated with the career you know now. He also played other shows in college with different bands. But as just Bruce Springsteen, the artist, and not part of a different band, he played in 1972. Other states only recently got a show. So here you see Nevada actually did not get a show till the year 2000. Texas here, 1974. The Eastern Seaboard would have a lot of older dates because, again, they were just states easy to get to from his home state of New Jersey. So you see 72, 72, 73, a lot of college shows. If we look at it by city, really, it's a great to be a Bruce fan on the East Coast. You see the largest circle here for number of records. It belongs to New York. So what we have here is 183 shows. And a lot of that is because Asbury Park is right down the road from his house. So if he's staying at his farm in Colts Neck, it's about 20 minutes away. And if he's staying at his mansion in Rumson, it's a half hour. So he's known to show up there a lot to play with other musicians, to play benefit concerts, to do some holiday shows. So you'll see, if we try to hover over this, Asbury Park has 84 shows. You see New York has a lot. That's because he generally will play New York City, Long Island, Albany, Rochester, etc. Boston, a home away from home for him. They've got 74 shows. And then, like I said, out in LA, big city, and he had some roots there for a while, 64 shows. See some little dots here. So Albuquerque's only gotten one show. So if you're a fan of New Mexico, you've kind of more had to hop over to a neighboring state. This is Fargo's only had 2 shows. I actually almost once went to one of these shows, but the wife disapproved of flying into Fargo at 4 p.m., going to see Bruce, and then turning around and flying home. I don't know why, but she said no. Atlanta, you see 27. So the circles here represent just how many times he's played these cities. His career has also taken him around the globe. So if we go back here to the beginning and we hit play, you'll see his early days were mostly, he was a U.S. artist, but then 75 with Born to Run, he kind of expanded out to Europe. 81 again with The River, 84 for Born the USA. 88, I'm going to just go back to 88 for 1 second. 88, he did the Amnesty International Human Rights Now tour. So he played South America and Africa for the first time. Gonna hit play again. He's really played just about everywhere in the world. He's not played Russia, China, or the Middle East, but he has played the South Pacific. He's played Japan. He's played all over Europe. He's played a number of shows in Australia and, of course, the US and Canada. So you can scroll here any way you'd want to see all the different tours. But if we look at right now, just going to go back to 2016. He's been touring, and he's on tour currently right now. He's actually playing Europe. So you see all the Europe shows colored in. It's not surprising the U.S. has the most shows here at over 1,700. Again, home turf, pretty easy to leave your house and play anywhere. When we then look at it, we see England is the second most played country. A lot of his Australian fans will complain they don't get enough shows, but the visualization actually shows that they've gotten a lot more than France and Sweden, and that really their neighbors over in New Zealand have grounds to complain. They've only gotten 3 shows. But Australia here is actually in the top 7 for concerts. I also looked at his concerts by venue and by country. Max is Kansas City, and the main point are clubs in New York, and those go back to his early days where he'd play multiple nights and sometimes even multiple sets per day. Then you see the Garden at 43. He's a bit behind Billy Joel and Elton John's records. Here we see the Brendan Byrne Arena, and if we jump down and we see the Continental Airlines Arena, they're actually the same venue. They just changed names. If we combine them, they would actually have 53 shows, and they would actually be #1 up and above Max's Kansas City. Wembley is his top venue for outside the US, and then followed by Paris. And if we scroll, you can just see all the different venues he's played over the years and by country. So that's it. That's my Bruce visualization. I was hoping to do something that showed songs he played the most often, but I just could not figure out how to take the data across all of these columns and consolidate it. So if anybody has any tips, I would love to hear it, because I've got a number of columns here. It looks like 38. And I'd love to be able to show what song he's played most often, regardless of its position in the show. But I was unable to do that. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and thanks for listening.